Jessie Duarte,
Yes, good afternoon.
Selwyn from the Roof on Top channel. How are you doing?
I'm well, and yourself?
Very good. Thank you for taking out the time to speak to us.
Okay.
We are recording social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Okay, that's fine.
Just want to speak to you about your history.
I've only got 10 minutes. So
100%.
we have to be... Thank you, my dear.
I understand. I know you're all busy running around.
No, it's okay.
Acting Secretary General of the ANC.
Yes.
You have had a fantastic career. I read up some of the stuff on Wikipedia, and sad to see that 2022 you're going to step down. Yeah.
Yes, I have to.
Okay.
I'm 67 years old.
Okay.
I began a political life at the age of 15. It's a long time.
Wow, it's a long time, yes.
Yeah. But I'm not the acting Secretary General. I'm the Deputy Secretary General.
Yeah.
And my task right now is, all I can do is to fulfill the tasks of the Secretary General in his absence.
In his
so
absence.
I think it's a bit different from, I hear people calling me the acting Secretary General, and of course, I
Yeah.
like to be very accurate.
All right, I understand. For the sake of transparency, or for the sake of all the factions within the ANC and how Isma Gasule might feel now, you stepping up to the plate.
Well, the choices are not any one of ours. It's
Okay.
a choice made by the Constitution of the
Yes.
ANC.
Yeah.
That determines it so. So, it's not really relevant whether the factions in the ANC like it or not like
Yeah.
it. Somebody has to do the job. That's what
100%.
it's about.
Yes, getting the job done. Now, the whole deal with Isma Gasule, you obviously had to issue the letter. How did that make you feel uncomfortable, seeing that he was your boss?
Yes, well, I've known him for over 40 years, so
All right.
obviously there's been a very long relationship between the two of us.
Okay.
Secondly, the decision that was made was not my personal decision. It is a decision of the National Executive Committee, the NWC, and as an official, I am then obliged to take that instruction and implement it.
Okay.
So I don't have a choice in the matter. If the NEC has so determined, and the NWC, which is the executive authority to make sure things happen, tells me write the letter, I need to write the letter and send it out. So
Yeah.
yes, I did. I can only say that it's never comfortable to be the one who acts against a comrade. Or negatively towards a comrade. However, if the job has to be done, you swallow whatever it is you're feeling and you do what needs to be done.
All right, I understand. Being a woman inside the ANC, especially in your woman of your stature, in the Big Six, minus Isma Gasule at the moment, there's a lot of women obviously looking up to you. The work you do, all these years, it's quite difficult. Women get a lot of blame, and if I read through your Wikipedia, there's also a lot of controversies where you took your lover to Portugal with taxpayers' monies.
If I had a lover, it would have been better if I did have a lover.
Okay.
Women are always characterized, let me be very blunt,
Okay.
we're characterized in three different ways. We're characterized as arrogant, aloof, or wars. Yes, we're one of those three things. If you're a strong woman, one of those three descriptions are applicable to you. And if you dare to have a friendship with a male comrade, you are going to be seen as having an affair with that male comrade. Selwyn, it was very costly for me.
Okay.
Because the accusation, which was not the truth, cost me my marriage.
I'm so
So
sorry.
I'm very bitter towards journalists for that particular reason.
Okay.
Yes.
Look, I read the Bible. If you read the Bible, Eve got blamed for eating the fruit. Samson and Delilah situation. Lot's wife got turned into salt. Now, if you make a pot of curry, you Indian, I love acne curries. Without salt, it's a different thing. Now, being
No, I'm not an Indian,
Oh,
Selwyn.
okay.
I'm a South African. I was born here and I'm an African woman,
Oh,
you know.
okay.
I take great exception to being called an Indian. I've only been to India once
Oh, okay.
on a visit to meet the Indian National Congress. My family were really, we are the product of slaves who were stolen from the Javanese islands
All right.
and ended up in Makassar.
Makassar,
My mother-
Makassar in Cape Town.
I don't like to be called an Indian because I think I also don't like to be called a Kallard. I am a
Okay.
South African woman and I prefer to be called a black woman. you
Okay,
know?
black in terms of, but now if we look at the ANC, black in particular, I also read here that you took a stance against the racism within the ANC, and that obviously, was talked about on TV, on radio, excessively. So, what do you classify yourself as black or as?
I'm a black woman, South African, born and bred, gestoot. Grew up in township areas like Newclear,
Okay.
close to Westbury. I don't think that we are ever going to overcome the racial dynamic if we consistently classify ourselves in a particular way. That is not trying to build a nation, and I am very clear about that. My fight is for non-racialism.
Okay.
You know, I will always fight for that. I will. Because
Okay.
I cannot understand how a country as diverse as ours could not move towards non-racialism.
All
We
these years.
can't wish each other away. We are here now. How we got here is irrelevant. To put it bluntly, ons is almal hier en ons moet die pot saamroer.
Oh, so you speak
Like it or
Afrikaans.
Yeah.
But now
It's
you,
cracked up.
but okay, but you being in that boardroom with the big guys making decisions, big decisions that's affecting the country, business, everything. I mean,
Yes.
you are inside. How can't you, get these guys? Because you're a strong woman. You a woman. I read an article a few years ago that women are less corrupted and corruptible, meaning if they look at statistics, more men are corrupted and corruptible or able to be corrupted. How come you can't bring about the change that we're talking about? Because non-black in terms of Indian and colored and white, you classify as black now. Indian, colored and white. If you look at the BEE structure, it's prejudice against. But it's
Let me tell you that I agree with you entirely.
Right.
That the concept of black economic empowerment was never meant to exclude anyone. However, what did happen right in the beginning, and one must always be accurate about the origins of anything,
Yeah.
is that monopoly capital chose a few people and said, okay, these are the guys we're going to bring into our companies, and they're going to be the face of black economic empowerment. That's not empowerment.
Okay.
You know, there's a view I hold which says you can't trickle wealth down. It has to start from the bottom up. You've got to bring it from the people at the bottom, and you've got to grow it. Wealth grows like a tree grows.
Yeah.
So for me, the issue is that there's been it's skew,
Yeah.
because people who've been this notion of being left out. Of course, people like in the Western Cape, there are a number of people who also benefited from BEE. Let's not make that mistake.
Yeah.
Who are filthy rich today,
Yeah.
who own fishing grounds and fishing rights, and they are not African people. They
Okay.
are. And there are a number of Indian people who are stinking rich.
Yeah.
And there are many, many white people in our country who are stinking rich.
Okay.
I come from a different perspective.
Okay.
For me, economic empowerment is about right down to the bottom of our country and uplifting everybody and removing this entanglement with poverty. And yes, it is about business opportunities. And what I find we need to argue around is, should tenders not be public? All tenders. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. should we not get to a point where we actually even put the name of a person who got the tender and how far they're going?
Yeah.
But what is important is that a tender should never have a name before it is published.
Okay.
And sometimes, and many times, and oft times, that is the problem, and that is the problem we must fight.
It's just last year with the lockdown, the tenders that came out with, especially with the sanitizing and the masks and all those things. A lot of those tenders looks like it was awarded to companies that was just registered, and all the trails it went back to some of the ministers, some of the guys within the ANC in high-ranking positions, and I'm sure you guys are looking at all those things in terms of trying to resolve it.
As you know, in Gauteng and in many other places, all of this was exposed. So nobody's trying to sweep anything under the carpet.
Okay.
You know, and I think what would be very helpful is we need to undo the perceptions that are created. Julle is almal dronklappe of julle is almal diewe.
Yeah.
You know, the two dynamics. It's not. It's we as a nation honestly need to begin to talk about what really happened, and transparency is the only way to go forward. And as far as I'm concerned, if a minister gets involved in wrongdoing, then that minister must also be taken short.
Yes.
And if you get involved in wrongdoing, so must you be taken short.
100%.
It's a tough stance to take, but because the pushback is that people then look at you and they say, well, we're going to take her on, or take them on, or they classify you in a faction. I don't belong to any faction.
Okay.
I belong to the ANC. It's the only faction I belong to. And I honestly believe that I'm not afraid to speak my mind. So in that boardroom that you talk about, I can assure you, I never accept any position that is not the policy of the ANC that we made in a conference. And I fight against the undermining of anything that would reduce the humanity of any person in this country.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate that, and because we on the ground, we wanna understand what's happening there, because everything we see, we read it in the newspaper, we see on the news, and it looks like I watched that interview that Ace Magashule had with those two journalists, and he alluded to a lot of things, and what I took out from that, the subliminal message is, for me, what I saw was, the ANC, or the new ANC as it appears, has been captured by the white monopoly. And that is what I felt he was trying to say without saying it. It's going to be a sad reality, like women like yourself that's now going to go on retirement, which is a good thing, because a lot of people say they need to make space for the youngest, and there's a lot of old ministers in parliament falling asleep. You know, you see that on the...
You can't be calling our ministers up.
No, there's a lot. I'm glad Gwede Matasi got his degree now. I think it's his second degree. But if you look at the age group, it looks like the youngest, because you've got young, energetic people. They're smart, intelligent.
Yes,
they are close to the social media, things that's happening with technology. And you've got this big gap. It's almost like the gap between the ministers and the youngsters, and the gap between the rich and the poor. And it's a fantastic phenomenon, and we need to work towards closing those gaps, understand? Being a strong woman, I believe Patrice de Lille, also a minister within the ANC, how do you work with her? How did you feel when Cyril Ramaphosa appointed her?
I was very happy because Pat de Lille is a woman of great strength. I mean, I've known her for a long time. She was in the PAC, as you know. She's moved around a little bit.
Yeah.
But she's never lost the core of her values, which I respect.
Okay.
And I think that people like her are very good for our country. The pun, forgive the pun. She's good. She's good people. And I think that hopefully, you know, and I was happy because we also needed to introduce diversity into the ANC's cabinet, and she brings not only a different kind of diversity, but she also brings a different perspective, and I think that's wonderful. Nothing wrong with that.
Some people said she sold out. Now, with her exposing the arms deal, one of the guys that exposed the arms deal, where Jacob Zuma and them are all involved. I found it very strange that no one would touch people like yourself and Antipet or intimidate. Was she ever intimidated? Because from the time when she started as being a minister, the noise levels just became softer and softer. Is that just a perception?
No, I think, no, we've been touched, both of us. Look what happened to her in the DA. And I've been touched. I mean, you must not underestimate the fact that people do want to push you out, do want to push you back, do want to shut you up.
Yeah.
The thing to do is silence is like a growing cancer. It's the silence we have on gender-based violence that has deepened this scourge in our nation. It's the silence on corruption, the network of people who want to be elected so that they can get close to resources. If they don't get their way, then they hire a hitman to kill people. And, you know, that cycle, we must break that cycle.
Okay.
We must undo gangsterism. We must undo unfairness and inhumanity. We must undo silence.
Yeah. I spoke to Dimitri Zegels and 2 weeks ago, and we suggested maybe the government should start looking at getting the guys back into the army and create all this red tape with the Navy and you know, the Air Force. Try to get, because you're not going to stop. It's not going to, the gangsters are not going to stop. But we know we need to show the youngsters out there that there is life. And you know, if you look at the ANC from where we're looking at now, they need an overall PR campaign with everything, all the corruption that's been happening. It's a disaster, and everything that comes out, whether it be journalists trying to push a certain agenda. I've got the perception that the white monopoly owns certain radio stations, certain TV broadcasts, and then the black monopoly got the other portion again. So it's this clash, and then everyone is confused in the end. So we need to rely a lot on what is being said on social media, what is being posted, and that is where you can read the comments of how the normal person like myself, businessmen, people that works in the factory, this is the thinking thoughts, and you need to gather all this information and try to. One of the things that just happened now was President Cyril Ramaphosa. People are saying, if you look at that video where he lost his iPad, people are saying, is he on crack, tick, rocks, cocaine? I hope he, because there's this.
We must have a bit of a sense of humor in this country, you know?
Yeah, there's a funny behavior that he portrayed. Some people said, is he a clone, a copy, almost like Joe Biden? He speaks out of context. I don't know. How do you work with him? Is he a good leader to you?
I work with him very well.
Okay.
You know, presidents cannot speak off the cuff because their words have to be kept for history and for records. That's why, you know, they have speeches so that it's not because they can't speak off the cuff, but he writes his own speeches most of the time.
Most of the time. Wow.
So it's not like somebody writes his speech. I don't know if you've ever seen him working on his iPad or even a laptop. In meetings I've attended to him, he takes his own notes.
Okay.
And let me just say one thing to you. To me, the issue is not whether monopoly capital is white or black. The problem is monopoly capital, period.
Yes. Yeah.
And if we continue to have a structure of our economy that is structured in a manner that keeps a few people 1% rich and wealthy, and that wealth never drifts down because it can't.
Okay.
We will always have monopoly capital making the rules for the country.
Yeah.
We may say we don't like it, but that's a fact.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking for myself, and I say to you that we really do need to drift away from this really obscene capitalist perspective that we have in this country to something which is much more inclusive of the people from every class in our society. And it is a class matter. It's a class matter, and unfortunately, it's a class and a race matter. I have to say that.
Because you've got classes within.
I'm going to have to say goodbye to you.
Just the last question. As a woman of strength, and you obviously you speak highly about women and children. Do you think they're ever going to find the 10 babies that's missing?
Well, as you know, there is now a confirmation that sadly, the lady is ill and had not given birth at all. So it's a very sad thing, and I think we need to be sympathetic towards her.
Okay.
This does happen to human beings, and we are a bit protective of her because she is ill.
All right. Okay. So they've established that. All right. Last question. What do you think your career, if you decide now 2022, you step down, what do you think you'll be remembered for? Are you going to write a book and tell all?
Eugene, I don't know what I'll be remembered for, because that's like very arrogant, you kind of carve out a legacy for yourself. I don't know.
Okay.
I've had wonderful experiences working with people like Beyers Nodia, working with Madiba, and in that context worked with great people like Comrade Walter Sisulu, met people like Joe Slovo, Mac Maharaj, great people, Harry Gwala. I've been influenced by all of them.
All right.
Albertina Sisulu was my mentor, so I have a lot to say in my head about her. I don't think that I should write a book about what I did, which was my duty to do. Let me tell you, Eugene, I have the
Selwyn.
most beautiful grandchildren in the world, 4 of them.
Right.
I want to go spend as much time as
with them,
I can with them, and that's. I would like just to go and be a proper Oma. Yeah.
Yes, and enjoy retirement. If you're not gonna write the book, the journalist is gonna write their story, and it's not gonna be your history.
They say if the lions write your history, then it comes out a different way. I may think about it, but it's not
100%.
really in my. It's not on my bucket list.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I know we went way over the time.
It's okay.
Do you think the ANC will ever resolve this corruption in our country?
It will, and it is not just an ANC problem. It has to also be resolved by all of us in society. We've got to be able to say it like it is, where it is, open out and not be afraid to undo it.
100%.
We must undo it.
And Cyril Ramaphosa is making an example of Ys Magashule. Is that the narrative?
I'm not going to say anything about that. This matter is in court. I don't know if it's an example. I think we need to wait and see the outcomes of a very sad occurrence in the life of the ANC.
And we need it as well. Look, I mean, for me, I'm happy about it. I'm happy that things are coming to the light. God make it so, and God protect our country. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. All right.
And thank you too.
Okay then. Goodbye.
Okay then. Bye-bye.